There comes a moment in life when the noise of the world becomes unbearable. The endless stream of messages, demands, responsibilities, and expectations piles up until you feel suffocated. You wake up tired. You work through the day anxious. You go to bed restless, scrolling through screens that only remind you of what you lack. Somewhere deep inside, a quiet voice whispers that life was never meant to feel this way. That voice is faint, but it is still there. It tells you there must be another way, a path toward peace, a way back to yourself. Many people in our modern world live in quiet desperation. They smile at work, they joke with friends, but behind closed doors, their hearts ache. Stress builds like a storm cloud. Relationships fray under pressure. Money worries steal sleep. Anxiety hovers in the background, always waiting. People try to escape through entertainment, through shopping, through distractions, but the relief never lasts. The same pain always returns, often heavier than before. But what if the problem is not that life is broken, but that we are looking in the wrong place for answers? What if the peace we chase is not out there, but already inside us, waiting to be uncovered? Imagine for a moment that you carry within you a sanctuary, a still place untouched by the chaos of the world, a place that cannot be shaken by bad news, financial stress, or broken trust. It is not something you must earn. It is not something you must buy. It is already yours, hidden beneath layers of worry and fear. The teachings of the Buddha, carried through centuries, point us back to this sanctuary. They remind us that suffering is real, but so is the path beyond it. They are not distant, complicated theories reserved for monks on mountaintops. They are living truths, as relevant in a crowded city today as they were in a quiet monastery long ago. When applied to our daily struggles, stress, money, relationships, anxiety, loneliness, these teachings become a lifeline. They give us practical tools to breathe again, to let go, to live fully without being crushed by the weight of life. This is not about escaping the world. It is not about running away from work, family, or responsibility. It is about meeting life differently. It is about seeing clearly with fresh eyes and learning how to live in freedom even when circumstances are difficult. Imagine waking up and feeling light instead of heavy. Imagine walking into challenges and knowing they cannot break you. Imagine loving without fear, working without chains, resting without guilt. The journey we are about to take is one of rediscovery. It will not be filled with complicated philosophy. It will be filled with stories, with simple truths, with wisdom you can carry in your pocket and use in your daily life. Each step will uncover another layer of the prison we build around ourselves, and each step will show us how to walk free. That we begin by looking honestly at the pain, not avoiding it, not covering it up, but naming it, facing it, understanding it. Because only when we understand the root of suffering can we find the way out. And in that process, we will discover something profound. The solution has always been within us, waiting quietly for us to listen. Let us begin. Stress has become the background noise of modern life. It hums in the office when emails pile up. It lingers at home when bills wait on the kitchen table. It follows people in traffic, in crowded stores, even in the quiet of the night when they should be resting. The truth is, stress has become so normal that many no longer question it. They accept it as the price of living in today's world. Yet deep down, everyone knows the cost. It drains energy. It shortens tempers. It steals joy. It makes even small tasks feel heavy, and life itself begins to feel like a burden rather than a gift. Think about how it feels when the alarm goes off in the morning. For many, the first sensation is not gratitude for another day of life. It is pressure. The rush begins instantly. Get dressed, get the kids ready, face the commute, answer the messages. Before the day has truly started, the body is already tense, shoulders tighten, breathing shortens. Thoughts race ahead to the problems waiting. It is as if the mind never rests, always chasing, always planning, always fearing what might go wrong. And by the time night arrives, instead of peace, there is only exhaustion. We often tell ourselves this is just how life is. But is it? Or have we accepted a life of constant pressure because we do not know another way? Imagine if stress were not your permanent companion. Imagine if the same life, the same work, the same family, the same responsibilities could feel lighter, calmer, more meaningful. The change does not begin outside. It begins inside. Stress is not only about what happens around us. Two people can face the same situation and experience it completely differently. One person feels crushed, the other remains calm. The difference is not the circumstance. The difference is the mind. The Buddha once taught that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. Life will bring challenges, but the way we meet them decides whether they destroy us or strengthen us. Think of rain falling on a wedding day. Some see disaster. Others see beauty, a blessing, even laughter. The rain is the same. The reaction is different. Stress works the same way. It is not the situation that poisons us, but our resistance to it, our insistence that life must unfold according to our plans. We fight reality, and in that fight, we suffer. But there is another way. The ancient teachings invite us to look directly at our stress, not as an enemy to be crushed, but as a teacher to be understood. The mind that creates the stress is also the mind that can release it. By turning inward, by observing without judgment, we begin to see how much of our tension comes not from events, but from the stories we tell about them. Consider this. You are stuck in traffic. The cars are not moving. You can grip the wheel, curse the delay, and feel your heart pound. Or you can breathe, notice the moment, and accept that rushing will not change the flow of cars. The choice is yours. The same road can feel like a prison, or like an unexpected pause. This simple example reveals a profound truth. Stress is not fixed. It shifts when our perception shifts. In Zen, there is a saying, let go or be dragged. Stress drags us because we cling so tightly to how life should be. We cling to success, to control, to certainty. When life refuses to match our picture, we tighten our grip, and the tighter we hold, the more it hurts. But when we loosen that grip, even just a little, something changes. There is space. There is air. There is peace. Let us go deeper. Stress is not only in the mind, it enters the body. It lives in the tight jaw, the restless legs, the shallow breath. It hides in headaches, in fatigue, in illness. Doctors now confirm what the Buddha taught long ago. The mind and body are not separate. What weighs on the mind will eventually show in the body. And so the cost of stress is not only emotional, it is physical. It is the heart beating too fast. It is the immune system weakened. It is years taken from life. Yet this very connection holds the key to healing. If the mind can hurt the body, it can also help it. When we breathe deeply, when we calm the mind, the body follows. Muscles release. The heart slows. Healing begins. Stress may be powerful, but awareness is more powerful. Imagine a glass of muddy water. If you keep shaking it, the water never clears. But if you set it down, if you let it rest, the mud settles and clarity returns. The mind under stress is like that muddy water. We stir it with fear, with anger, with endless thought. But when we pause, when we sit quietly and watch, the mind settles. Peace rises naturally. It is not something we force. It is what happens when we stop disturbing what is already within us. This is the essence of mindfulness. To stop running, to stop fighting, to be present with what is here, right now. Mindfulness is not about emptying the mind. It is about noticing. Noticing the breath, noticing the thought, noticing the tension in the shoulders. And in noticing, we create space. In that space, stress loosens its hold. The practice can begin simply. Sit for a moment and breathe. Feel the air enter the nose, fill the lungs, leave the body. When thoughts come, do not chase them. Do not fight them. Let them pass like clouds across the sky. At first, the mind will resist. It will wander. That is natural. Each time, gently return to the breath. With practice, the storm quiets. With practice, the stress begins to soften. Another image. Life is a river. Stress comes when we try to hold the water, to stop the flow, to control what cannot be controlled. We stand in the current, exhausted, fighting the inevitable. But what if instead we learn to float? The river still moves. Life still happens. But instead of resisting, we flow with it. The struggle ends not because the river stopped, but because we stopped fighting. People often ask, but what about my problems? What about money, deadlines, family, conflicts? How can I be calm when these are real? The answer is not to ignore them. It is to face them with a different heart. Stress does not solve problems. Clarity does. Calm does. Compassion does. When the mind is tangled in fear, solutions hide. When the mind is calm, possibilities appear. Think of the butterfly in its cocoon. If someone cuts it open too soon, the wings never grow strong. The struggle is part of the transformation. Life is the same. Challenges are not punishments. They are teachers. Stress blinds us to this truth. But when we approach challenges with awareness, they strengthen us. They shape us into who we are meant to become. A student once asked a Zen master, "What is the most important thing?" The master replied, "Attention." The student asked again, thinking the answer too simple. The master said again, "Attention means attention." This is the heart of freedom from stress. Attention brings us back from the future we fear and the past we regret. It anchors us in the present, where life actually happens. Every breath is an opportunity. Every step is a chance to return. Stress pulls us away. Mindfulness pulls us back. And in that return, we discover something astonishing. Peace was never gone. It was only hidden beneath the noise. The path forward is not about eliminating stress completely. That would be unrealistic. Life will always bring challenges, but we can learn to meet them differently. We can learn to breathe in the middle of chaos. We can learn to see clearly when the storm rages. We can learn to be at home within ourselves, no matter what is happening outside. This is the first key, to recognize that stress is not a permanent sentence, but a habit of mind, a habit that can be changed. And once it changes, life itself begins to change. The same job, the same family, the same challenges, yet experienced with lightness, with clarity, with compassion. This is not theory. It is practice. It is a path walked one breath at a time. And it begins now, in this very moment. The grip of stress often feels unshakable because it disguises itself as responsibility. Many people believe that without worry, without tension, they would not succeed. They confuse fear with motivation. They think stress is the fuel that keeps them moving. But stress does not make us stronger. It wears us down. True strength does not come from tension. It comes from clarity, from steady focus, from calm perseverance. Stress is a fire that burns us. Mindfulness is the light that guides us. Picture a rope pulled tight. At first, it holds firm. But keep pulling, keep straining, and eventually it frays, then snaps. The human body, the human mind, is the same. We can carry heavy loads for a time, but if we live in constant tension, something breaks. Sometimes it is the body that breaks, through illness or exhaustion. Sometimes it is the heart that breaks, through anger or despair. Sometimes it is the spirit, through numbness and loss of hope. The Buddha taught about the middle way, not too tight, not too loose. A string on a lute must be tuned carefully. Too tight, it snaps. Too loose, it makes no sound. The same is true for our lives. Stress pulls us too tight. Laziness leaves us too loose. But when we find balance, there is harmony. Life produces music instead of noise. This is not just an idea. It is something we can feel. Imagine standing in a room filled with loud music. At first, the noise overwhelms you. But if you step outside into quiet, the contrast is striking. The silence feels alive. Stress is like that loud music. We get so used to it, we forget how painful it is. Only when we step into stillness do we realize how different life can be. One way to step into stillness is through breath. It seems too simple, almost childish. But the breath is always here. It anchors us. It carries us back to the present. Try it now. Breathe in deeply. Hold for a moment. Exhale slowly. Feel the body soften. In that simple act, the weight lifts a little. Stress loses power. The breath is not magic, but it is medicine. Each time we return to it, we return to ourselves. Another way is awareness of the body. Stress hides in the jaw, in the neck, in the stomach. Take a moment to scan from head to toe. Where is the tension? Notice it. Breathe into it. Release it. Often we do not realize how much we are carrying until we pause and pay attention. This awareness is healing. It is the first step toward freedom. There is a famous Zen image of a boat floating on a lake. If another boat, empty, drifts and bumps into us, we do not get angry. There is nothing to blame. But if a person is steering the boat, we shout, we fume, we take it personally. Stress works the same way. Life bumps into us, but much of the pain comes from the story we attach. We make everything personal. We believe the world is against us. But what if the boat is empty? What if life is not attacking us, but simply flowing according to its nature? When we see it this way, anger softens, stress dissolves. We can smile and move on. In daily life, stress often grows because we resist small things. The spilled coffee, the long line, the harsh word. One by one, these moments pile up until the weight feels unbearable. But if we change how we see them, they lose their sting. The spilled coffee becomes a reminder to slow down. The long line becomes a chance to breathe. The harsh word becomes an opportunity to practice compassion. Each moment becomes a choice. Do we add to our suffering, or do we release it? A practice of mindfulness does not erase difficulties. It changes our relationship with them. Imagine holding a hot coal tightly. It burns. But if you open your hand and let it fall, the burning stops. Stress is that hot coal. We clutch it because we believe it is necessary. But the truth is, we can let go. We do not lose anything by releasing it. We gain freedom. Consider a story from the Zen tradition. A master carried a heavy sack of rice for miles. A student asked, "Why do you carry such weight when you could leave it behind?" The master set the sack down and smiled. See how easy it is to put it down. Stress is the sack we all carry. We tell ourselves we cannot let go, but in reality, setting it down is always possible. It begins with awareness. It deepens with practice, and it becomes freedom. Still, letting go is not always easy. The habit of stress is strong. It is like a path worn deep into the ground by years of walking. The mind automatically follows it. But with each mindful breath, we carve a new path. Slowly, the old one fades. Slowly, peace becomes natural. To live this way does not mean living without ambition or goals. It means moving toward them without being crushed by fear. It means working hard without forgetting to breathe. It means loving fully without clinging. It means living wisely, remembering that every moment is precious. Stress steals the moment. Mindfulness restores it. The Buddha once described the human condition as being struck by two arrows. The first arrow is pain unavoidable, part of life. The second arrow is our reaction, anger, fear, resistance. We cannot always avoid the first arrow, but the second is optional. Stress is often the second arrow. We wound ourselves again and again, even when the original pain has passed. The practice is to stop shooting the second arrow. So how do we begin? Start small. Take one mindful breath before answering the phone. Take one mindful step when walking to the car. Pause for one mindful moment before speaking in anger. These small acts build strength. They train the mind to return again and again to the present. Over time, they change everything. Imagine a life where stress no longer rules you. The bills may still come, but they no longer rob your sleep. Work may still demand, but it no longer crushes your spirit. Relationships may still challenge, but they no longer consume you with fear. This life is not fantasy. It is possible. It is waiting for you. The sanctuary of peace is not somewhere far away. It is here, inside, in every breath. The path is simple, but not easy. It requires practice. It requires patience. But every step brings freedom. Every moment of awareness is a moment of liberation. And once you taste it, even for a second, you know the truth. You are not bound to stress. You are free. And as we step into this freedom, we begin to see that stress is only one layer of suffering. Beneath it lie deeper struggles: money, relationships, anxiety, fear of the unknown. Each has its own pain. Each has its own doorway to freedom. And just as mindfulness unlocks stress, the teachings of the Buddha unlock these other prisons too. We have taken the first step. We have faced stress and seen that it does not own us. Now we move forward into the next challenge, the next pain of modern life. For many, it is the fear that there will never be enough. Enough money, enough security, enough stability. It is the burden of scarcity, the endless hunger for more. This is where our journey continues. Money is one of the greatest sources of stress in modern life. For many, it feels like a shadow that never leaves. Bills arrive each month like clockwork. Prices climb higher. Debt lingers. Savings never feel secure enough. Even when money is enough for today, fear whispers about tomorrow. What if I lose my job? What if the economy crashes? What if I can't provide for my family? Money becomes more than numbers. It becomes fear, weight, and endless worry. Think about how often money enters the mind in a single day. You wake up and check your bank account. You buy coffee and wonder if you should have made it at home. You drive to work thinking about the paycheck that still feels too small. You scroll online and see others living lives that seem bigger, shinier, more secure. Each moment is a reminder of what you have, what you lack, and what you fear losing. The cycle repeats day after day. This is not just about survival. It is about identity. In modern culture, money is tied to worth. People believe their value is measured by their salary, their home, their car, their clothes. They work longer hours, take on more stress, and sacrifice their health just to prove they are enough. But no matter how much they earn, the hunger never ends. More always seems necessary. Enough never arrives. The Buddha taught that craving is at the root of suffering. This craving shows itself clearly in our relationship with money. We crave security. We crave recognition. We crave control over the future. Yet the truth is, money can never satisfy these cravings. It can provide comfort, yes. It can meet basic needs, but it cannot silence the endless hunger of the mind. The more we chase, the more it slips away. Consider this story. A farmer worked day and night to grow his wealth. He stored grain until his barns overflowed. Yet instead of feeling safe, he worried more. What if thieves come? What if my barns burn? What if next year's harvest fails? His wealth grew, but his peace shrank. He died still clutching his fear, never tasting the freedom he sought. This is the trap of money. It can fill the hand, but it cannot fill the heart. And yet, the problem is not money itself. Money is a tool, nothing more. The problem is our relationship to it. When we cling to money as our savior, it becomes our prison. When we see it as a passing resource, it loses its power to control us. The shift is not outside, but inside. Think of a glass of water. If you drink it when you are thirsty, it nourishes you. But if you try to hold it forever, it grows stale. Money is the same. Used wisely, it serves life. Hoarded or worshipped, it poisons life. The teachings remind us, true wealth is not in possessions, but in freedom from fear. Imagine two people with the same income. One lives in constant fear of losing it. The other lives with gratitude, knowing life itself is a gift beyond measure. Who is richer? The answer is clear. Wealth is not measured in dollars. It is measured in peace. So how do we begin to transform our relationship with money? The first step is awareness. Notice how often thoughts of money create tension. Notice how your body reacts when you open a bill or check your balance. Do your shoulders tighten? Does your chest grow heavy? This awareness is important because it shows you that the suffering does not come from the bill itself. It comes from your reaction to it. The second step is gratitude. Instead of focusing only on what is missing, notice what is already here. Food on the table, a roof above, clothes to wear. Each is a form of wealth. Gratitude shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. It breaks the illusion that nothing is ever enough. The third step is generosity. It may seem impossible to give when money feels scarce, but generosity is not about amount. It is about spirit. When you give even a small amount, you loosen the grip of fear. You remind yourself that you are not defined by what you hold, but by what you share. Generosity frees the heart, and often it returns blessings in unexpected ways. There is a well-known Buddhist teaching: if you have 2 coins, give one away. Not because you must, but because it trains the heart to trust. The act itself says, I am not owned by fear. I am not a slave to money. Even the smallest act of giving plants the seed of freedom. Money will always be part of life, but it does not need to be the master of life. We cannot control the economy, the markets, or the future, but we can control how we relate to money. We can see it clearly, use it wisely, and refuse to let it define us. Imagine a life where money serves you instead of enslaving you, where you work not only for a paycheck, but for purpose, where you save not from fear, but from wisdom, where you spend not to impress, but to live with joy. This life is possible. It does not begin in the bank. It begins in the heart. The Buddha once said, contentment is the greatest wealth. Think about those words. Contentment means peace with what is. It means recognizing that true happiness is not found in the chase for more, but in the deep appreciation of now. This wealth cannot be stolen, cannot be lost, cannot be measured. It is yours already, if you choose to see it. Money may never stop flowing in and out of your life, but peace can remain steady. And when peace becomes your foundation, money loses its power to scare you. It becomes what it always was meant to be, a tool, a servant, not a master. And so the path is clear. See money as it is, Release the fear that surrounds it. Practice gratitude for what you have. Practice generosity to free the heart. In this way, money no longer rules you. You rule it with wisdom, with clarity, with compassion. This is the beginning of freedom from financial fear. But we are not finished, for money is not the only shadow in modern life. Beyond money lies another source of deep suffering: relationships. The connections that should bring joy often bring pain. The love that should heal often wounds. And just as with stress and money, the teachings of the Buddhists shine light on this too. But before we move there, we must go deeper. Because money's grip is strong, and to release it fully, we need to explore not only the surface, but the roots hidden within the human heart. This is where we turn next. Money has a way of tying itself to the heart more tightly than almost anything else. It is not only about paying bills or buying food. It is about security, identity, and dreams of a better life. That is why the subject cuts so deeply. For many, money feels like the key to freedom. If only there were more, life would finally be safe. If only there were enough, the heart could finally rest. But has that moment ever truly come? For most, the answer is no. Even when money arrives, fear remains. A raise at work brings temporary joy, followed by new fears. Now that I earn more, what if I lose it? A new house excites for a time, but soon the worry begins. What if I cannot pay the mortgage? What if the market crashes? The mind never stops. It turns wealth into worry, possessions into pressure. This is why money, by itself, cannot bring peace. The sanctuary of peace is not somewhere far away. It is here inside, in every breath. The path is simple, but not easy. It requires practice. It requires patience. But every step brings freedom. Every moment of awareness is a moment of liberation. And once you taste it, even for a second, you know the truth. You are not bound to stress. You are free. And as we step into this freedom, we begin to see that stress is only one layer of suffering. Beneath it lie deeper struggles: money, relationships, anxiety, fear of the unknown. Each has its own pain. Each has its own doorway to freedom. And just as mindfulness unlocks stress, the teachings of the Buddha unlock these other prisons too. We have taken the first step. We have faced stress and seen that it does not own us. Now we move forward into the next challenge, the next pain of modern life. For many, it is the fear that there will never be enough. Enough money, enough security, enough stability. It is the burden of scarcity, the endless hunger for more. This is where our journey continues. Money is one of the greatest sources of stress in modern life. For many, it feels like a shadow that never leaves. Bills arrive each month like clockwork. Prices climb higher. Debt lingers. Savings never feel secure enough. Even when money is enough for today, fear whispers about tomorrow. What if I lose my job? What if the economy crashes? What if I can't provide for my family? Money becomes more than numbers. It becomes fear, weight, and endless worry. Think about how often money enters the mind in a single day. You wake up and check your bank account. You buy coffee and wonder if you should have made it at home. You drive to work thinking about the paycheck that still feels too small. You scroll online and see others living lives that seem bigger, shinier, more secure. Each moment is a reminder of what you have, what you lack, and what you fear losing. The cycle repeats day after day. This is not just about survival. It is about identity. In modern culture, money is tied to worth. People believe their value is measured by their salary, their home, their car, their clothes. They work longer hours, take on more stress, and sacrifice their health just to prove they are enough. But no matter how much they earn, the hunger never ends. More always seems necessary. Enough never arrives. The Buddha taught that craving is at the root of suffering. This craving shows itself clearly in our relationship with money. We crave security, we crave recognition, we crave control over the future. Yet the truth is money can never satisfy these cravings. It can provide comfort, yes. It can meet basic needs, but it cannot silence the endless hunger of the mind. The more we chase, the more it slips away. Consider this story. A farmer worked day and night to grow his wealth. He stored grain until his barns overflowed. Yet instead of feeling safe, he worried more. What if thieves come? What if my barns burn? What if next year's harvest fails? His wealth grew, but his peace shrank. He died still clutching his fear, never tasting the freedom he sought. This is the trap of money. It can fill the hand, but it cannot fill the heart. And yet, the problem is not money itself. Money is a tool, nothing more. The problem is our relationship to it. When we cling to money as our savior, it becomes our prison. When we see it as a passing resource, it loses its power to control us. The shift is not outside, but inside. Think of a glass of water. If you drink it when you are thirsty, it nourishes you. But if you try to hold it forever, it grows stale. Money is the same. Used wisely, it serves life. Hoarded or worshipped, it poisons life. The teachings remind us, true wealth is not in possessions, but in freedom from fear. Imagine two people with the same income. One lives in constant fear of losing it. The other lives with gratitude, knowing life itself is a gift beyond measure. Who is richer? The answer is clear. Wealth is not measured in dollars. It is measured in peace. So how do we begin to transform our relationship with money? The first step is awareness. Notice how often thoughts of money create tension. Notice how your body reacts when you open a bill or check your balance. Do your shoulders tighten? Does your chest grow heavy? This awareness is important because it shows you that the suffering does not come from the bill itself. It comes from your reaction to it. The second step is gratitude. Instead of focusing only on what is missing, notice what is already here. Food on the table, a roof above, clothes to wear. Each is a form of wealth. Gratitude shifts the mind from scarcity to abundance. It breaks the illusion that nothing is ever enough. The third step is generosity. It may seem impossible to give when money feels scarce, but generosity is not about amount. It is about spirit. When you give even a small amount, you loosen the grip of fear. You remind yourself that you are not defined by what you hold, but by what you share. Generosity frees the heart, and often it returns blessings in unexpected ways. There is a well-known Buddhist teaching: if you have 2 coins, give one away. Not because you must, but because it trains the heart to trust. The act itself says, I am not owned by fear. I am not a slave to money. Even the smallest act of giving plants the seed of freedom. Money will always be part of life, but it does not need to be the master of life. We cannot control the economy, the markets, or the future, but we can control how we relate to money. We can see it clearly, use it wisely, and refuse to let it define us. Imagine a life where money serves you instead of enslaving you, where you work not only for a paycheck, but for purpose, where you save not from fear, but from wisdom, where you spend not to impress, but to live with joy. This life is possible. It does not begin in the bank. It begins in the heart. The Buddha once said, contentment is the greatest wealth. Think about those words. Contentment means peace with what is. It means recognizing that true happiness is not found in the chase for more, but in the deep appreciation of now. This wealth cannot be stolen, cannot be lost, cannot be measured. It is yours already, if you choose to see it. Money may never stop flowing in and out of your life, but peace can remain steady. And when peace becomes your foundation, money loses its power to scare you. It becomes what it always was meant to be, a tool, a servant, not a master. And so the path is clear. See money as it is. Release the fear that surrounds it. Practice gratitude for what you have. Practice generosity to free the heart. In this way, money no longer rules you. You rule it with wisdom, with clarity, with compassion. This is the beginning of freedom from financial fear. But we are not finished, for money is not the only shadow in modern life. Beyond money lies another source of deep suffering: relationships. The connections that should bring joy often bring pain. The love that should heal often wounds. And just as with stress and money, the teachings of the Buddha shine light on this too. But before we move there, we must go deeper. Because money's grip is strong, and to release it fully, we need to explore not only the surface, but the roots hidden within the human heart. This is where we turn next. Money has a way of tying itself to the heart more tightly than almost anything else. It is not only about paying bills or buying food. It is about security, identity, and dreams of a better life. That is why the subject cuts so deeply. For many, money feels like the key to freedom. If only there were more, life would finally be safe. If only there were enough, the heart could finally rest. But has that moment ever truly come? For most, the answer is no. Even when money arrives, fear remains. A raise at work brings temporary joy, followed by new fears. Now that I earn more, what if I lose it? A new house excites for a time, but soon the worry begins. What if I cannot pay the mortgage? What if the market crashes? The mind never stops. It turns wealth into worry, possessions into pressure. This is why money, by itself, cannot bring peace. Relationships transform when we stop trying to fix others and begin practicing presence. Listening deeply, speaking honestly, allowing space for difference, meeting each moment without dragging the weight of the past or the fear of the future. When we meet each other like this, even conflict can become a teacher. Think of a couple who argues constantly. Each time, they repeat the same patterns: blame, defense, silence. But one day, one of them pauses. Instead of reacting, they take a breath. Instead of blaming, they say, "I feel afraid of losing you." The tone shifts. The wall begins to crumble. What changed? Not the situation, but the presence brought to it. One moment of mindfulness opened the door to healing. The Buddha compared anger to holding a burning coal, waiting to throw it at another. Who gets burned first? The one holding it. Many relationships suffer because we cling to these burning coals. Old resentments, past mistakes, harsh words never forgotten. We replay them again and again, each time reliving the pain. But forgiveness is the act of putting down the coal. Not because the other deserves it, but because we deserve peace. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the harm never happened. It means choosing not to let the harm control us forever. It means freeing ourselves from the chains of the past. And when we forgive, even silently, relationships shift. Sometimes they heal, sometimes they end. But always, forgiveness brings peace to the one who practices it. So much of relationship pain comes from fear of being alone, fear of being unworthy, fear of losing love. But when we see clearly, we realize we are never truly alone. We are connected to all beings, to the earth, to the breath in this very moment. This realization eases the desperate grip we place on others. It allows us to love not from need, but from freedom. Imagine a love like this, a love that does not cling, does not demand, does not fear, A love that says, I see you as you are, and I wish you happiness. This love cannot be broken by time or distance. It cannot be stolen. It only grows the more it is shared. This is the love the Buddha pointed toward, a love born not of craving, but of compassion. And so we begin to see, relationships are not only about others. They are mirrors of our own hearts. They show us where we cling, where we fear, where we resist. They invite us to grow in patience, forgiveness, and love. When approached with mindfulness, every relationship becomes a path to awakening. But this is only the beginning. For the struggle of relationships runs deep. Beyond clinging and expectation lies another pain. The loneliness that persists even when surrounded by others. The wounds that never seem to heal. The longing for love that feels out of reach. This is where our journey continues. Relationships can be both the sweetest fruit and the sharpest thorn of human life. They hold the power to lift us into joy or pull us into despair. What makes them so powerful is not only the love we give and receive, but the meaning we attach to them. For many, relationships are the mirror in which they search for identity. Am I worthy? Am I lovable? Am I enough? When the mirror reflects love, they feel alive. When it reflects rejection, they feel broken. But the Buddha taught that no mirror outside of us can ever hold the answer to who we truly are. Consider how often we place impossible weight on the people around us. We ask our partner to be our comfort, our healer, our constant companion, our endless source of happiness. We ask friends to always agree, always understand, always show up. We ask children to fulfill our dreams. We ask parents to protect us from pain forever. No human being can carry such weight. When they fail, as they inevitably will, we feel betrayed. Yet the betrayal is not theirs alone. It comes from our expectation that they could be something they were never meant to be, the complete solution to our suffering. The Buddha's wisdom shines a different light. He taught that love without attachment is possible, love without clinging, love without fear. This love does not demand, stay with me so I feel safe. It whispers, I wish for your happiness, whether you are near or far. It does not shrink when distance comes. It does not collapse when challenges arise. It is a love rooted not in possession, but in freedom. Imagine standing under a tree heavy with blossoms. You enjoy its shade, its fragrance, its beauty. But you do not chain the tree to yourself. You do not demand that every flower last forever. You enjoy it while it blooms, and when the petals fall, you let them go. Relationships can be this way too. To love deeply, yet without chains. To honor the gift of each moment together, knowing all things change. Of course, this is easier to say than to live. Real life brings heartbreak. A partner leaves. A friend betrays. A family member dies. These wounds cut deep, and the pain is real. The path of mindfulness does not deny this pain. It invites us to feel it fully, without drowning in it. To sit with grief as with a guest. To allow tears to flow, not as weakness, but as cleansing. To honor the love that was, without clinging to what cannot return. Forgiveness becomes a powerful tool here. Many hearts are chained, not by present conflict, but by past wounds. Words spoken years ago still echo. Betrayals from long ago still sting. We replay them again and again, each time carving the wound deeper. Forgiveness is the key that unlocks these chains. Not because the other deserves it, but because we deserve peace. When we forgive, we release ourselves from the endless replay of pain. We stop carrying the coal that burns our own hand. Forgiveness does not mean pretending the wrong never happened. It means choosing not to let the wrong define us. It means saying, this pain is real, but it will not own me forever. In this choice, we find freedom. There is a story of two monks traveling together. They came to a river where a woman struggled to cross. One monk carried her across, though their vows discouraged physical contact with women. Hours later, the other monk burst out, "How could you do that? How could you break your vow?" The first monk simply said, "I put her down hours ago. Why are you still carrying her?" Many of us are like the second monk, still carrying old wounds long after the moment has passed. Forgiveness is the act of putting them down. Another teaching that transforms relationships is mindful speech. So much conflict arises not from what happens, but from how we communicate about it. Harsh words spoken in anger leave scars that outlast the moment. Silence born of resentment poisons connection slowly. But when we speak mindfully with honesty, kindness, and care, we turn conversations into bridges instead of weapons. Imagine pausing before speaking. Imagine asking, "Is this true? Is this necessary? Is this kind?" If the words do not pass these gates, perhaps silence is better. But when the words do pass, they carry healing. A simple, "I see your pain," can heal more than hours of blame. A gentle, "I am listening," can open a heart more than 1,000 solutions. Mindful speech is a form of love, and love spoken wisely can transform even the most difficult relationships. And yet, even with compassion, forgiveness, and mindful speech, loneliness can remain. This loneliness is perhaps the deepest wound of relationships, not the absence of people, but the absence of true connection. We can be surrounded by family, friends, colleagues, and still feel invisible. The Buddha taught that this loneliness comes not from others, but from our disconnection from ourselves. When we do not know who we are, no amount of external company can fill the void. The practice here is turning inward, to sit in silence and meet yourself, to listen to your own breath, your own heartbeat, your own thoughts. At first, this may feel uncomfortable, but with time, you discover that you are never truly alone. Within you is awareness itself, steady, vast, unshaken. From this awareness grows a different kind of connection. You no longer cling to others out of fear. You meet them from fullness. And this fullness allows for genuine love. So what does freedom in relationships look like? It looks like loving without fear of loss. It looks like forgiving without erasing truth. It looks like speaking with kindness instead of anger. It looks like being whole within yourself, so that every bond becomes a choice, not a desperate need. This freedom does not mean relationships will never end or conflicts will never arise. It means you will no longer be destroyed by them. You will meet them with wisdom. You will meet them with compassion. You will meet them with the understanding that every person, like yourself, is walking the path of suffering and seeking peace. When we live this way, relationships transform. They are no longer prisons of expectation. They become gardens of growth. They become opportunities to practice patience, generosity, forgiveness, and love. Each interaction, whether joyful or painful, becomes part of the path to awakening. And so, with relationships, we touch both the beauty and the pain of human connection. We see how love can heal and how clinging can wound. We see how forgiveness can free us and how resentment can bind us. We see how loneliness is not solved by others, but by reconnecting with ourselves. These insights are not abstract. They are practical. They can be lived today in every conversation, in every act of listening, in every choice to release the coal of anger. As we close this chapter, we look ahead to another shadow of modern life, anxiety. That restless hum in the chest, that racing of thoughts, that fear of what might go wrong tomorrow. If stress weighs us down and money enslaves us and relationships wound us, anxiety ties them all together into a knot that never loosens. But the Buddha's teachings, once again, offer a way through. This is where our journey continues, into the restless storm of anxiety and into the calm that waits beneath it. Anxiety is the silent storm of modern life. It does not always shout. Sometimes it whispers in the background, like a hum you cannot switch off. You wake in the middle of the night, heart racing, thoughts spinning. You sit at your desk, unable to focus because your mind leaps from one worry to another. You try to relax, but the body refuses, as if always braced for danger. Anxiety robs people not only of peace, but of life itself, because it keeps them trapped in a future that has not yet happened. Think of how often the word "what if" enters the mind. What if I fail? What if I lose my job? What if I get sick? What if my loved one leaves me? The imagination spins endless scenarios, most of which never happen, yet the body reacts as if they were real. The heart pounds, the breath shortens, muscles tighten. Anxiety turns imagination into reality, and fear becomes the air we breathe. This restlessness is not new to humanity, but modern life feeds it like never before. News alerts flash disasters from every corner of the globe. Social media magnifies comparison and fear of missing out. Financial insecurity, relationship struggles, health worries all merge into a cloud of dread that follows us everywhere. Even in moments of calm, the anxious mind whispers, "Something will go wrong." Peace feels impossible. The Buddha understood this storm. Long before the term anxiety existed, he spoke of the restless mind, always grasping for what is. Not here, always fearing what might come. He described it as a monkey, leaping from branch to branch, never still. And he offered a simple truth. The monkey cannot be controlled by force, but it can be calmed with awareness. Imagine sitting by a river. The water rushes, wild and loud. At first, it feels overwhelming. But if you stay, if you watch, slowly you begin to notice patterns. The current flows in one direction. Leaves float by, carried by the stream. The river is not against you. It is simply moving. The anxious mind is like this river. Thoughts rush, fears tumble. But if you watch with patience, you realize you do not have to drown. You can sit on the bank. You can let the thoughts flow by without chasing them. This is mindfulness, applied to anxiety. Not fighting the thoughts, not trying to silence them, but observing them. Ah, here is fear of the future. Ah, here is the thought that I will fail. Ah, here is the tightness in the chest. By naming them, by watching them, we loosen their grip. The mind begins to learn. Thoughts are not reality. They are visitors, not truths. But anxiety is not only mental. It is deeply physical. The body becomes its battlefield. That is why breath is such a powerful anchor. When anxiety rises, the breath often becomes shallow and fast. By deliberately breathing slowly and deeply, we send a signal to the body. You are safe. The nervous system begins to calm. The heart slows. The storm eases. Breath is the bridge between the mind and the body. It is always available, always within reach. Another practice the Buddha taught is grounding in the present moment. Anxiety thrives on the future, on the what if. It cannot survive long in the what is. Look around the room. Feel your feet on the ground. Notice the colors, the textures, the sounds. Anchor yourself in what is real now. Each time, the mind races away. Gently guide it back to the present, like a parent guiding a child back to safety. Over and over, this practice builds strength. The mind learns to rest. There is a Zen story of a monk chased by tigers. He clung to a vine over a cliff, tigers above, more tigers below. As he hung there, he noticed a wild strawberry growing nearby. He plucked it and ate it. "How sweet it tastes," he said. The danger did not vanish, but in that moment, he experienced the fullness of life. Anxiety tries to steal that sweetness by keeping us trapped in fear of what might come. But when we learn to rest in the present, Even for a breath, even for a moment, we taste the strawberry. We discover life again. The truth is, life will always hold uncertainty. There is no way to eliminate every risk, every unknown. If we wait until the future feels perfectly safe, we will wait forever. Freedom does not come from controlling life. It comes from meeting life as it is, with calm and courage. A Buddha taught impermanence. Everything changes. Anxiety tries to resist this truth, to hold on to certainty. But when we embrace impermanence, the fear softens. We realize that change is not only loss, it is also possibility. Think about the seasons. Winter does not last forever. Spring always returns. In the same way, fear and uncertainty are part of life, but they are not permanent. Trust grows when we remember that every storm passes. Even anxiety, no matter how strong, cannot last forever. Another teaching that helps is compassion for ourselves. Many people judge themselves harshly for feeling anxious. They say, "I should be stronger. I should be calm. What's wrong with me?" This judgment only deepens the wound. But when we place a hand on our heart and whisper, "It's okay. This is just anxiety visiting. I am safe. I am not broken," the healing begins. Anxiety loses its sharpness when met with kindness. So imagine this new way of living. You wake in the night, the mind racing. Instead of panicking, you breathe. Instead of judging, you whisper kindness. Instead of drowning, you watch the river flow. Slowly, the body calms. Slowly, the storm passes. You taste a moment of peace. That moment grows with practice. Over time, anxiety no longer controls you. You learn to live in the storm without being swept away. This is the gift of mindfulness. It does not promise that fear will vanish forever, but it promises that you no longer have to be its prisoner. It gives you tools to breathe, to watch, to return to the present. It teaches you that peace is possible, even in the middle of uncertainty. And as we step forward, we carry this truth. Anxiety may visit, but it does not define us. Beneath the storm, there is always a stillness waiting. The teachings of the Buddha guide us back to it, again and again. But anxiety is not only personal, it is also collective. Entire communities feel it. Entire societies hum with restlessness. And so our next step is to explore not just how anxiety affects individuals, but how it shapes the world we live in and how compassion can heal both. This is where we go next. Anxiety does not only live in individuals. It spreads like smoke through families, workplaces, communities, and nations. A parent's constant worry passes silently to a child. A leader's fear ripples through an organization. A culture obsessed with speed and competition breeds restlessness in every heart. When many anxious minds come together, the weight multiplies. The collective body tenses. The collective breath shortens. It feels as if the whole world is on edge. We see it everywhere. People rushing without knowing where they are going. Arguments exploding online, fueled by fear rather than clarity. News cycles magnifying dread until it feels impossible to escape. Even moments of joy are often overshadowed by what's next, or what could go wrong. Anxiety has become the background soundtrack of society. But the Buddha's teachings are not only for solitary monks. They are for communities. They are for nations. They are for anyone who longs to breathe freely again. Just as mindfulness calms an individual, collective mindfulness can calm a group. Imagine a workplace where meetings begin with a moment of silence. Imagine a family where meals are eaten slowly with gratitude. Imagine a classroom where students are taught not only facts, but also how to breathe and return to the present. These small acts ripple outward, softening the collective anxiety that weighs on us all. Anxiety thrives on disconnection. disconnection from ourselves, from others, from the present. Healing begins with reconnection. When we pause to breathe, we reconnect with our bodies. When we listen deeply, we reconnect with each other. When we practice compassion, we reconnect with the world. This is why the practice of mindfulness is not selfish. Each moment of awareness we cultivate adds peace to the collective field. Each act of kindness sends ripples that calm more than just one heart. Consider the story of a teacher walking with a group of students. They came to a village shaken by fear of famine. Instead of lecturing, the teacher asked everyone to sit in silence together. At first, the villagers were restless, but slowly their breaths synchronized. Slowly, the storm of panic eased. Out of that silence came new ideas, new cooperation, new hope. This is the power of shared presence. It shows that anxiety is not invincible. It can be transformed, hearts join in calm. Yet, we must be honest, anxiety never disappears completely. Even the most mindful practitioner feels it at times. The difference is in the relationship. The untrained mind believes, I am anxious. Therefore, I am broken. The trained mind learns, anxiety is visiting. It will pass. This shift is everything. It changes anxiety from a prison into a passing guest. The Buddha compared emotions to visitors in a guest house. Some visitors are pleasant, others are difficult, but none stay forever. Anxiety is one of these visitors. We may not like it, but if we greet it with awareness, anxiety, I see you, we stop fighting. The resistance softens, and in that softening, freedom begins. Another teaching that brings relief is impermanence. Anxiety often feels endless, but in truth, no state lasts forever. Every storm passes. Every wave recedes. When we remember this, we can endure the moment without collapsing under it. We whisper to ourselves, this too shall change. And suddenly, the burden feels lighter. Compassion is also a medicine for anxiety. Not only compassion for ourselves, but for others. When we realize that everyone around us is also carrying hidden fears, our hearts open. The stranger on the bus, the coworker at the desk, the partner beside us at night, each is carrying their own storm. When we practice compassion, may you be safe, may you be peaceful, we step out of isolation. We remember we are not alone. And in that shared humanity, anxiety loosens its grip. Practical steps also matter. Simple routines anchor us when anxiety wants to sweep us away. Walking slowly, feeling each step touch the earth. Drinking tea mindfully, tasting each sip. Writing worries on paper, then setting the page aside. These are not trivial acts. They are reminders to the mind. You are here, you are safe, you are alive in this moment. Anxiety wants to pull us into the future. These practices call us back to now. Imagine a life where anxiety still visits, but no longer rules. You wake in the night with racing thoughts. Instead of spiraling, you place a hand on your chest and breathe. You feel the body calm. The thoughts continue, but you no longer drown in them. You walk into a stressful meeting. The tension rises. Instead of panicking, you notice your feet on the floor. You take one mindful breath. You speak with clarity instead of fear. Anxiety may remain, but it becomes background noise instead of a cage. This is the transformation available to us. Anxiety does not need to vanish for peace to grow. Peace grows when we learn to live with anxiety without being consumed by it. The storm may continue, but we find shelter within. We discover the eye of the storm, the calm center that has always been there, waiting for us to return. And as we return, we discover something even deeper. Anxiety is not just about fear of the future. It is about forgetting the present. It is about forgetting who we truly are. Awareness itself, vast and unshaken. When we remember this, when we rest in the stillness beneath the waves, we find freedom that no anxiety can touch. So now, as we close this chapter, we look ahead. Anxiety may be one of the greatest inner struggles of our age, but it is not the only one. Beyond anxiety lies another pain that often hides in plain sight: the exhaustion of constantly chasing, constantly achieving, constantly believing that only when we do more will we finally be enough. It is the pressure to always perform, to always win, to always prove ourselves. This drive often disguises itself as ambition, but beneath it lies a quiet despair. This is where our journey continues, into the struggle of endless striving and into the freedom of effortless action. Modern life glorifies striving. From childhood, we are told to push harder, run faster, climb higher. Success is measured in numbers, grades, salaries, followers, possessions. Every step forward seems to demand another, and the finish line is always moving. This endless pursuit leaves many exhausted, yet they feel unable to stop. To pause feels like failure. To rest feels like falling behind. And so they keep running, even when the soul is tired, even when joy has vanished. The result is a culture of exhaustion. People walk through life weary, their faces lit by screens, their calendars overflowing. They believe they must constantly prove their worth. If I just achieve this promotion, then I'll be enough. If I just reach this income, then I'll finally rest. If I just get this recognition, then I'll be happy. But when the goal arrives, the satisfaction fades quickly, and the chase begins again. This is the trap of striving. It promises fulfillment, but delivers only more hunger. The Buddha saw this clearly thousands of years ago. He described it as the endless wheel of craving, spinning without pause. We run after desire, believing it will save us, but the more we run, the more tired we become. Think of a butterfly struggling to emerge from its cocoon. If someone cuts it open too soon, the butterfly's wings never strengthen, and it cannot fly. Struggle has its place, but constant, relentless striving breaks us. It leaves no room for growth, no room for breath, no room for life. Zen offers a different way: effortless action. Not laziness, not passivity, but a way of moving through life without the chains of striving. The Taoists call it Wu Wei, non-doing. It does not mean doing nothing. It means acting in harmony with the flow of life, rather than against it. It means allowing effort to be natural, like a tree growing or a river flowing. Imagine paddling a boat downstream. When you move with the current, progress feels smooth. When you fight against it, exhaustion comes quickly. Striving is rowing against the current. Effortless action is learning to move with the river. The destination may be the same, but the journey feels entirely different. There is a Zen parable about an empty boat. A man rows across a river in thick mist. Suddenly, another boat collides with his. Anger flares until he sees the boat is empty, drifting with the current. His anger dissolves instantly. He realizes there was no one to blame. The lesson is clear. Much of our striving and stress comes from believing life is against us, when in truth, life is simply flowing. When we stop fighting, peace arises. But what does effortless action look like in daily life? It looks like working with focus instead of fear. It looks like creating because the heart longs to create, not because the world demands more. It looks like resting without guilt, knowing rest is part of the path. It looks like letting go of the illusion that we must control every outcome. Think of a gardener. They plant seeds, water them, tend the soil, but they cannot force the flowers to bloom. The growth happens in its own time, in its own way. Striving is like shouting at the flowers, "Bloom now." Effortless action is tending carefully, then trusting the process. In your own life, how often do you shout at the flowers? How often do you demand that everything happen on your schedule? How often do you exhaust yourself trying to force outcomes beyond your control? This is the cost of striving. It steals peace, it drains energy, and it blinds us to the beauty unfolding right here. The Buddha invited us to see clearly. Craving is endless. If we chase it, we will never rest. But when we release it, when we learn to act with presence instead of desperation, a different kind of strength emerges. It is steady, calm, unshaken. It is not the frantic fire that burns out quickly. It is the quiet flame that lights the path for a lifetime. Imagine waking tomorrow without the need to prove anything. Imagine working not from fear, but from love. Imagine resting without guilt, trusting that your worth is not tied to productivity. This is the freedom of effortless action. It does not mean you stop caring. It means you begin living, and yet the habit of striving runs deep. For years, maybe decades, we have trained ourselves to measure life in achievements. To change this habit requires practice. Mindfulness is the practice. Each time you catch yourself rushing, pause, breathe, ask, am I rowing against the current? Or can I let go and flow? Each small shift plants a seed of freedom. There is a story of a student who asked a Zen master, "What is the path to enlightenment?" A master replied, "When hungry, eat. When tired, sleep." The student was confused. "Isn't that too simple?" The master smiled. "The simple is hardest. Most people eat while worrying. They sleep while planning. They are never fully here. This is the essence of effortless action, doing what is needed, fully, without resistance, without distraction. So let us reflect. Where in your life are you striving endlessly, yet never arriving? Where are you exhausting yourself chasing approval, security, or success? Can you imagine a different way? A way of working with presence, of living with trust, of resting with peace? This way is available, here and now. It begins with a single breath. And as we step deeper into this truth, we see that striving is not only personal. It is cultural. Entire societies are built on endless growth, endless competition, endless pressure to achieve. To free ourselves, we must also question the systems that teach us to run without rest. We must ask what kind of life we truly want. To live. This is where our journey continues. Into the collective weight of striving, and into the freedom that comes when we choose a different path together. Endless striving is not just a personal habit. It has become a way of life for entire societies. From billboards to social media, the message is constant. Do more, earn more, achieve more, become more. The culture praises hustle, celebrates busyness, and measures worth in productivity. Rest is treated as laziness. Silence is treated as weakness. Contentment is treated as failure. No wonder so many live in quiet despair, exhausted but afraid. To stop. We see this in the workplace. Employees push through 12-hour days, fearing that slowing down will cost them their jobs. We see it in families, where parents feel guilty if they are not constantly giving their children more opportunities, more lessons, more activities. We see it in schools, where children are taught to compete before they are taught to breathe. This collective addiction to striving does not create peace. It creates burnout, division, and emptiness. The Buddha warned of this wheel of craving. It spins endlessly, generation after generation, unless someone chooses to step off. To step off does not mean abandoning responsibility. It means refusing. To let life be reduced to a race. It means remembering that your worth is not earned through endless doing. It is already present in simply being. Consider again the image of a lute string. Too tight, it snaps. Too loose, it makes no sound. Balance is the way. When a society values only tightness, only striving, eventually, it breaks. But when it learns the middle way, harmony appears. Work still happens. Growth still happens. But it happens without destroying the body, the mind, or the spirit. There is a Zen teaching about chopping wood and carrying water. Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. The actions remain the same. What changes is the heart behind them. With striving, every act feels like a means to an end, a desperate attempt to prove oneself. With effortless action, every act becomes complete in itself. Washing a dish is just washing a dish. Walking down the street is just walking. The mind rests in the present, and life itself feels lighter. Imagine working without striving. You still show up. You still give your best. But you no longer measure yourself against others. You no longer chain your happiness to outcomes. You find joy in the doing itself, not just in the reward. The project succeeds, and you smile. The project fails, and you still smile, because your worth was never tied to success. This is true freedom. But how do we practice this in a world that constantly demands more? The answer lies in small, deliberate steps. Begin by noticing when striving appears. Notice the tightness in your chest when you compare yourself to others. Notice the rush in your mind when you fear falling behind. Then breathe. Ask yourself, am I rowing against the current or am I flowing with it? Even one breath of awareness begins to break the chain. Another step is to reclaim rest. Rest is not laziness. Rest is medicine. When you allow yourself to sit in silence, to walk slowly, to breathe deeply, you restore the balance that striving steals. Rest does not take you away from life. Rest brings you back to it. Generosity also heals striving. Striving is rooted in self, my success, my achievement, my worth. Generosity shifts the focus outward. When you give without expecting return, you step out of the race. You remind yourself that life is not only about climbing higher, it is about lifting others to . And then there is trust. Trust that life unfolds in its own rhythm. Trust that you do not need to force every outcome. Trust that the seeds you plant will grow in their season. This trust is not passive. It is active surrender. It says, I will do my part with care, and I will release the rest. Think of a farmer. He plants seeds, waters them, tends the soil, but he does not pull at the sprouts to make them grow faster. He trusts the process. He knows growth takes time. Striving is like pulling at the sprouts, destroying what we meant to nurture. Effortless action is planting, tending, and trusting . So let us imagine a society built on this wisdom. A workplace where balance is valued as much as achievement. A family where love is measured not in activities, but in presence. A school where children are taught mindfulness alongside mathematics. A culture where rest is honored, where simplicity is celebrated, where contentment is seen as success. This vision is not fantasy. It begins with each person choosing a different way. And when enough people choose, the collective shifts. The wheel of craving slows. The culture of exhaustion gives way to a culture of presence. This is how change happens, not all at once, but one mindful step at a time. The Buddha taught that enlightenment is not in some distant future. It is in the way you breathe now, the way you walk now, the way you live this moment. Effortless. Action is simply living fully where you are, without chasing, without forcing. It is the art of being alive. So as we close this chapter, let us reflect. Striving promises happiness, but steals it. Effortless action invites happiness by revealing. It was always here. The choice is not easy, but it is simple. Each time you pause, each time you breathe, each time you release the need to prove, you step into freedom. And yet, even as we learn to release striving, another shadow waits. Beneath the chase for success, beneath the anxiety of the future, beneath the stress of money and relationships, lies a deeper question. Who am I, really? Am I this name, this role, this story? Or is there something more, something beyond separation, something unshaken by the rise and fall of life? This is where our journey continues, into the mystery of self and the illusion of separation, into the truth that we are not alone, but deeply connected to all beings, to all life, to all that is. One of the deepest pains of modern life is the feeling of separation. People live surrounded by millions, yet feel profoundly alone. Crowded cities, busy offices, full households still, and emptiness lingers. It is the sense of being cut off, of being unseen, of being a stranger, even to oneself. This illusion of separation is one of the most powerful causes of suffering, because it blinds us to the truth of who we really are. Not isolated fragments, but threads in one great web of life. Think of how separation shows itself every day. You walk down the street and pass countless faces without meeting a single eye. You scroll online, surrounded by images of connection, but feel only more distant. You sit in a room with family, yet everyone stares at their own screen. The world has never been more connected by technology, yet hearts have never felt more. Apart. This loneliness whispers in quiet moments. It says, "No one understands me. No one truly knows me. I am alone in my struggle." It becomes a shadow that follows us, making every challenge heavier. When stress comes, it feels like ours alone to bear. When grief comes, it feels like no one else could possibly feel this pain. The illusion of separation multiplies suffering, because it tells us we must carry it all ourselves. But the Buddha saw through this illusion. He taught that all life is interconnected, that nothing exists in isolation. The breath you take is the gift of trees. The food you eat is the gift of earth, sun, and countless hands. The clothes you wear, the house you live in, the water you drink, all are possible because of others. You are not separate. You never were. Imagine a single wave rising from the ocean. The wave may think, "I am alone. I must hold myself together. I am separate from all the others." But in truth, the wave is the ocean. It cannot exist apart from the water that gives it form. It rises, it falls, it changes shape, but it never stops being the ocean. You are the same. You may feel separate, but you are inseparably part of the great ocean of life. This understanding changes everything. When we believe we are separate, we feel fear, loneliness, and competition. When we realize we are connected, compassion flows naturally. The suffering of others is not distant, it touches us. The joy of others is not foreign, it uplifts us. Life becomes less about me and more about we. There is a Zen story of a monk who broke a precious cup. When others scolded him, he said, "The cup was already broken. I simply enjoyed it while it lasted." This story is not only about impermanence, it is also about connection. The cup existed because of clay, water, fire, the hands of the potter, the gift of earth. Its breaking was not the monk's alone, it was part of the cycle of all things. Nothing exists by itself. Modern science confirms what the Buddha taught. Ecology shows how every species depends on others. Medicine shows how the body is a community of cells, bacteria, systems working together. Physics shows how even matter is a dance of energy, inseparable from the space around it. The illusion of separation is powerful, but truth is stronger. Everything is connected, and yet, knowing this intellectually is not enough. We must feel it. We must experience it. This is where mindfulness opens the door. When you sit quietly and breathe, notice the breath entering. That breath is not yours alone. It comes from the trees, from the wind, from the entire living world. Each inhale connects you to everything. Each exhale gives back to everything. You cannot breathe without the world. You cannot live without the world. You are the world. Try this practice. As you eat, pause, look at the food. See not only the plate before you, but the farmer who planted the seed, the rain that watered the soil, the sun that warmed the earth, the hands that harvested, packed, and delivered. Each bite is the whole universe feeding you. Suddenly, a simple meal becomes sacred. Gratitude flows, loneliness fades. Connection is revealed. When we live with this awareness, the pain of separation softens. We realize we were never truly alone. The friend we long for is already here, in the earth beneath our feet, in the sky above, in the breath that sustains us. This realization does not erase the desire for human connection, but it roots us in a deeper truth. We are always connected, always supported, always part of something vast and beautiful. This awareness also transforms how we treat others. If you are separate, then another's suffering is not your concern. But if you are connected, their suffering is your suffering. Compassion becomes natural. Anger softens. Kindness becomes the only response that makes sense. Imagine a world where this truth guided us. A world where nations remembered they are not separate, but part of one planet. A world where communities remembered they are not competitors, but partners. A world where individuals remembered they are not alone, but part of one human family. This is not fantasy. It begins with each of us waking from the illusion of separation. The Buddha often spoke of Indra's net, a vast web of jewels stretching infinitely in all directions. Each jewel reflects all others. Touch one, and all are touched. This is the reality of life. Your choices ripple outward. Your kindness ripples outward. Your peace ripples outward. When you heal, the world heals. When you awaken, the world awakens. So the question is not, am I alone? The question is, how can I remember the truth of connection in each moment? The answer is simple. Pause, breathe, see. See the interdependence in every breath, every meal, every relationship. Let gratitude grow. Let compassion rise. Let the illusion of separation fade. And yet, while this truth is liberating, the illusion of separation is stubborn. It returns again and again. This is why practice matters. Each day, we must remind ourselves, I am not alone. I am connected. Each time we forget, we return. Slowly, the illusion loses its power. Slowly, connection becomes our lived reality. As we close this part, let us reflect. The pain of separation is one of the greatest wounds of modern life. But the truth of interconnection is one of the greatest healers. When we remember we are not alone, when we feel the web of life holding us, loneliness softens, fear loosens, and love flows. And so we prepare to go deeper. For the illusion of separation does not only cause loneliness, it also feeds judgment, anger, and division. To truly heal, we must learn how interconnectedness transforms not only loneliness, but also conflict. This is where our journey continues. The illusion of separation does more than create loneliness. It also fuels judgment, anger, and division. When we believe we are separate, we see others as threats. We divide the world into us and them, right and wrong, worthy and unworthy. From these divisions arise conflict, prejudice, even war. Entire nations are torn apart because people forget that beneath different names and faces, we share the same breath, the same earth, the same longing to be free from suffering. Look at the small conflicts of daily life. A driver cuts us off in traffic, and we feel rage. A coworker disagrees, and we feel attacked. A neighbor speaks differently, dresses differently, believes differently, and we feel distant. Each reaction grows from the same root, the belief that We are separate. If they are other, then we can justify anger. If they are other, then we can turn away from their suffering. But when we see clearly, this illusion dissolves. The driver in traffic is not an enemy. They may be rushing to a sick child. The coworker is not an attacker. They too are trying to be heard. The neighbor is not a stranger. They too love, grieve, hope, and dream. When we remember this, anger softens. Compassion arises. The walls we built crumble. The Buddha taught compassion as the natural fruit of wisdom. When we see interconnection, we cannot help but care. Just as the hand cares for the foot when it is injured, we care for others when we see that they are not separate from us. Their suffering touches us. Their joy lifts us. Life becomes less about protecting me and more about serving we. There is a story of a monk who saw a scorpion drowning. He reached to save it, but the scorpion stung him. Again he reached. Again it stung. A passerby said, "Why keep saving it when it hurts you?" The monk replied, "The scorpion's nature is to sting. My nature is to save." This is the heart of compassion. It does not depend on how others act. It flows because we see all beings as part of us. In modern times, this practice is revolutionary. Imagine workplaces where colleagues see each other, not as rivals, but as partners in one shared journey. Imagine communities where diversity is not feared, but celebrated as part of the great web of life. Imagine nations where decisions are made not for profit alone, but for the well-being of all beings, human, animal, earth. This vision begins when we awaken from the illusion of separation. But how do we practice this in daily life? Start with deep listening. When someone speaks, do not rush to reply. Do not plan your defense. Just listen. Listen for the humanity beneath their words. Listen for their fear, their hope, their longing. When you truly listen, walls dissolve. You realize you are not enemies. You are fellow travelers on the same path of suffering and joy. Another practice is mindful seeing. As you walk, notice the faces around you. Instead of labeling, silently wish them well. May you be happy. May you be safe. This simple act transforms strangers into kin. It reminds you that everyone you pass is carrying unseen struggles, just as you are. This practice plants seeds of compassion that grow into daily life. Forgiveness also becomes easier when we remember interconnection. When we cling to separation, forgiveness feels impossible. They hurt me. Why should I let go? But when we see the larger web, we realize harm does not arise in isolation. Those who cause pain are themselves caught in cycles of ignorance and suffering. To forgive is not to excuse. It is to recognize shared humanity, to release ourselves from the poison of resentment, and to wish healing for all. This way of seeing also transforms how we relate to the earth. The illusion of separation tells us the planet is a resource to exploit. Interconnection shows us it is our body, our breath, our life. To harm the earth is to harm ourselves. To care for the earth is to care for our own children and grandchildren. When we live with this awareness, every choice, what we eat, how we travel, what we consume, becomes an act of love. Still, the illusion of separation is persistent. It returns again and again. This is why the Buddha taught continuous practice. Each day, we must return to the truth. I am not alone. I am part of the web. Each breath, each meal, each step is a chance to remember. Slowly, the illusion loses its grip. Slowly, connection becomes our natural way of living. Imagine a life lived in this awareness. Loneliness softens because you know you are always held by the web of life. Anger softens because you see the humanity in others. Fear softens because you know you are not alone in your struggle. Gratitude grows because you see the countless gifts that sustain you each moment. This life is not fantasy. It is available. Now, if you choose to see Dot, so let us pause. Breathe in. Feel the air given by trees filling your lungs. Breathe out. Feel your breath return to the world, nourishing life. This simple act reveals the truth. We are not separate. We are one great body, one great breath, one great heart. And as we carry this truth forward, we prepare to face another shadow of modern life. For even when we know we are connected, suffering continues. We still experience loss, illness, and death. We still struggle to accept change. The next great pain is the fear of impermanence, the fear that everything we love will slip away. This is where our journey continues. Into the truth of change, the reality of impermanence, and the freedom that comes when we stop clinging to what cannot last. One of the greatest sources of human suffering is the refusal to accept change. Deep inside, we know everything is impermanent. Seasons shift, bodies age, relationships evolve, loved ones pass away. Yet even with this knowledge, the heart resists. We cling to what we love as if it could last forever. We fear loss, we fear death, we fear the unknown. This resistance is like trying to hold water in our hands. The tighter we grip, the faster it slips away. Impermanence shows itself in small ways each day. A favorite shirt fades, a flower wilts. The taste of a meal disappears after the last bite. These changes are gentle reminders. But sometimes impermanence arrives like a storm. A job is lost, a partner leaves, a parent dies. Suddenly life feels broken. The illusion of permanence shatters, and grief takes its place. The Buddha did not deny this pain. He named it directly. All conditioned things are impermanent. This is not meant as a punishment, but as a truth. Everything that arises will pass. Everything that begins will end. To resist this truth is to suffer. To accept it is to find freedom. Think of a sunset. If you cling to it, demanding it never fade, the beauty turns to sorrow. But if you simply watch, knowing it is temporary, the colors shine more brightly. You savor each moment because you know it will not last. Impermanence, when embraced, becomes not an enemy, but a teacher. It teaches us to cherish, to be present, to love deeply, without clinging. Yet many live as if permanence were possible. We buy houses believing they will protect us forever. We hold on to youth as if the body will never change. We cling to relationships as if they will never shift. When reality proves otherwise, we feel betrayed. But life never promised permanence. It only promised change. There is a Zen story of a monk who owned a simple porcelain cup. He cherished it deeply. One day, another asked, "Are you not afraid it will break?" The monk replied, "The cup is already broken." He meant that in his heart, he had already accepted its impermanence. Each day he used it with gratitude, knowing it was temporary. When it finally broke, he did not suffer. He had already let go. This teaching can feel harsh at first. To say the cup is already broken about a loved one, a relationship, even our own bodies, may feel cold. But it is not about indifference. It is about love without illusion. When we accept impermanence, we do not love less. We love more. We love fully, without wasting time on denial or clinging. We love with open hands, not clenched fists. Consider how often we postpone life. I will spend time with my family later. I will rest later. I will say, I love you later. But impermanence reminds us there may not be a later. The only moment we are promised is this one. When we accept this, we stop postponing. We live now. We love now. We rest now. Grief is one of the deepest teachers of impermanence. When someone we love dies, the pain feels unbearable. The heart resists, cries, begs for things to be different. This resistance is natural. But slowly, if we allow it, grief transforms. It shows us the depth of our love. It shows us that impermanence does not erase connection. The body may pass, but the love, the lessons, the impact remain woven into us. In this way, impermanence is not only loss. It is also continuation. Look at autumn leaves. They fall, they fade, they return to the soil. From the soil, new life grows. Death feeds birth. Endings feed beginnings. This is the cycle of impermanence. When we resist it, we see only loss. When we accept it, we see the endless rhythm of rise and fall. Mindfulness helps us live with this awareness. Each breath reminds us, inhale, arise, exhale, pass away. Each breath is born and dies within seconds. When we truly notice this, we see impermanence not as tragedy, but as life itself. Impermanence is not something to fear. It is the reason anything is possible. Without impermanence, no seed could sprout, no wound could heal, no child could grow. So how do we practice? Acceptance? Begin by naming change when it happens. This flower is fading. This moment is passing. This body is aging. Instead of resisting, acknowledge. Instead of clinging, bow to the truth. Over time, this practice builds strength. The heart learns to hold lightly, to love fully, to let go gracefully. Another practice is gratitude. When you see everything as temporary, gratitude naturally arises. Each meal becomes precious. Each conversation becomes sacred. Each moment with loved ones becomes a gift. Gratitude transforms impermanence from something to fear into something to celebrate. Imagine a life lived this way. You no longer cling desperately to youth because you know aging is natural. You no longer postpone love because you know time is short. You no longer waste energy resisting change because you know change is the way. Life becomes lighter, freer, richer. The Buddha described enlightenment as the end of clinging. This does not mean the end of love. It means the end of grasping love as if it could be frozen in time. It means loving fully, knowing it will change. It means living fully, knowing it will end. Paradoxically, this awareness does not darken life. It brightens it. When we stop demanding permanence, we finally see the beauty of impermanence. So let us pause. Look around you. Notice something you love, a person, an object, a moment. Whisper silently, this too will pass. At first, the words may sting, but then notice how the heart softens. You realize, because it will pass, it is precious. Because it will not last, it deserves your full presence now. This is the gift of impermanence. It wakes us from sleep. It reminds us to live now. It frees us from clinging. It teaches us to love without fear. And yet, impermanence not only affects individuals, it shapes entire cultures, economies, and civilizations. Nations rise and fall. Systems change. What feels unshakable today will be gone tomorrow. To truly understand impermanence, we must also see it on the collective level. This is where our journey continues. Impermanence is not just a personal truth. It is a collective truth. Entire nations, cultures, and civilizations rise and fall under its law. What seems permanent today, a government, an economy, a technology, will one day be gone. History is filled with empires that believed they would last forever, yet they now live only in ruins and books. When we see this clearly, we realize that change is not the exception. Change is the rule. Modern society often resists this. We build monuments of steel and glass as if they will stand forever. We cling to institutions as if they will never fail. We act as if the way things are now is the way they will always be. But impermanence whispers a different truth. Markets crash, systems collapse, cultures shift, new ways of living arise. This can feel frightening, but it can also bring hope. For just as suffering arises, it also passes. No injustice, no hardship, no struggle is truly eternal. The Buddha described impermanence as both the wound and the cure. It wounds when we cling to what must change. It heals when we realize that even pain will pass. Think of a storm. In the middle of it, the rain feels endless. The wind feels eternal. But storms always move. They cannot hold the sky forever. When we trust this, we learn to endure without despair. This collective impermanence also carries responsibility. If nations, systems, and cultures are always changing, then our actions matter. What we plant now will grow into the world of tomorrow. If we plant seeds of greed, hatred, and ignorance, future generations will inherit suffering. If we plant seeds of compassion, wisdom, and justice, they will inherit peace. Impermanence does not excuse us from responsibility. It deepens it. There is a Zen image of riding on water. Every act is like a stroke on the surface gone quickly, yet shaping the flow. Our lives may feel brief against the vastness of time, but each choice matters. Each moment contributes to the direction of the whole. When we live with awareness of impermanence, we live more carefully, more kindly, more fully. But impermanence is not only about endings, it is also about beginnings. Without impermanence, no child could be born. Without impermanence, no healing could take place. Without impermanence, no growth would be possible. Change is not the enemy of life. Change is the very condition for life. Think of a seed. It must die as a seed in order to become a sprout. The sprout must change to become a tree. The tree must shed leaves in order to renew. Each stage requires loss, but each loss makes way for something new. This is the gift hidden inside impermanence. Every ending is also a beginning dot in daily life. We can practice remembering this. When something ends, instead of only mourning, ask, what is beginning here? When a job is lost, perhaps space opens for new purpose. When a relationship ends, perhaps growth emerges that was not possible before. When youth fades, perhaps wisdom takes its place. Impermanence does not close doors without opening new ones. This perspective does not erase grief. It does not deny pain. It invites us to hold them with more space. Grief becomes less of a prison and more of a teacher. Pain becomes less of an enemy and more of a guide. With time, we learn to bow to impermanence, not with fear, but with respect. Mindfulness practice makes this real. Sit quietly. Watch thoughts arise and pass. Watch sensations arise and pass. Notice how nothing stays. A thought of anger appears, then fades. A memory appears, then fades. A sound appears, then fades. In meditation, impermanence becomes not a theory, but an experience. You see directly. Everything changes. Everything dot, and then slowly the heart relaxes. You stop demanding that life hold still. You stop clinging to what must move. You stop fearing change as if it were a thief. Instead, you begin to see change as a dance. You learn to flow with it instead of against it. Imagine living this way. You wake each morning knowing the day will not last. Instead of dreading this, you cherish it. You speak kindly because you know this conversation may be the last. You forgive quickly because you know time is short. You live fully because you know each moment is precious. This is not morbid. This is freedom. It is the freedom of seeing clearly. The Buddha said, of all footprints, that of the elephant is supreme. Of all teachings, the teaching of impermanence is supreme. Why? Because when we truly understand impermanence, we understand life itself. We stop clinging. We stop fearing. we begin to live with open hands and open hearts. So let us pause, take a breath, feel it enter, feel it leave. That breath is gone forever. Another takes its place. This is impermanence. This is life. Instead of fearing it, bow to it. Welcome it, learn from it. Let it free you. And now we prepare to step deeper. For impermanence not only reveals change, it also reveals emptiness, the truth that nothing has a fixed self, that all things are fluid, open, interdependent. To face impermanence is to loosen our grip on identity itself. And this, too, is both frightening and liberating. This is where our journey continues, into the mystery of self, emptiness, and the freedom that comes when we realize we are not what we cling to. There was once a monk who owned a simple porcelain teacup. He treasured it. He used it every morning, holding it with care. One day, another monk asked, "Are you not afraid it will break?" The monk smiled and said, "In my heart, the teacup is already broken. I enjoy it fully while it lasts." This story teaches impermanence, but it also points to something deeper, the truth that nothing we call mine truly belongs to us. Not even our own body, not even our own self. We spend our lives building and protecting the idea of me. We give it a name, a history, a personality. We decorate it with achievements, possessions, and titles. We defend it fiercely when it feels threatened. Yet beneath all this, the Buddha taught, the self we cling to is an illusion. Like the teacup, it is fragile, temporary, and not truly ours. This can be unsettling. If I am not this self, then who am I? If I am not my name, my role, my story, then what remains? The Buddha answered with the teaching of emptiness, not a void, not nothingness, but the realization that all things, including the self, are without fixed identity. They exist only through conditions, through interconnection, through constant change. Think of a chariot. In ancient times, people believed the chariot was a solid thing. But when asked to point to the chariot, they realized it was only wheels, axles, wood, and rope. Take away the parts, and the chariot vanishes. The same is true of the self. When you look closely, what is I? Is it the body? But the body changes every moment. Is it the mind? But thoughts rise and fall. Is it memory? But memories fade. No single part can be called the self, and yet we cling to it as if it were permanent. This clinging creates enormous suffering. We feel insulted when someone criticizes me. We feel anxious about protecting my reputation. We feel terrified at the thought of my death. But if we see clearly that the self is not fixed, these fears loosen. The insult is just words passing. The reputation is just thoughts in others' minds. Death is just the transformation of conditions. The suffering weakens because the self we cling to was never solid. There is freedom in this. When we no longer defend a rigid I, we can flow more easily. We can adapt. We can forgive. We can live without the heavy armor of ego. This is not about erasing personality. It is about realizing that personality is fluid, not a prison. You can play your role: parent, worker, friend, without mistaking it for who you truly are. Consider water poured into different cups. In a tall glass, it appears tall. In a wide bowl, it appears wide. But the water itself is free of fixed shape. The self is like this water. It appears as me or you, but in truth it is fluid, connected to everything, free of permanent form. Emptiness does not make life meaningless. It makes life limitless. When you are not bound by a fixed self, you can grow endlessly. You can respond to life with creativity instead of fear. You can love more freely because love is no longer about protecting me. It is about serving the whole. There is a story of a Zen master walking through a forest. A student asked, "Who are you?" The master replied, "When I am hungry, I eat. When I am tired, I sleep. The student said, "But everyone does that." The master smiled. Not everyone truly eats when eating, or truly sleeps when sleeping. The master pointed to the freedom of emptiness, living fully in each moment, without being bound by stories of I or mine. Modern life makes this teaching urgent. We live in a culture obsessed with identity. People define themselves by careers, possessions, social media profiles. They curate an image of me and suffer endlessly when it is not admired, when it is compared, when it feels threatened. This suffering is avoidable. It comes from clinging to something that was never solid. The Buddha's invitation is to let go, to see the self not as a prison, but as a play, to wear the mask lightly, knowing it is not who we truly are. This does not mean apathy. It means living with lightness. It means you can work, love, create, and play without the constant weight of me, me, me. Try this practice. Sit quietly and ask, where is the self? Look for it in the body, in the thoughts, in the memories. Watch as each slips through your grasp. Notice how what you call I changes moment by moment. At first, this may feel unsettling, but then it brings relief. The pressure of maintaining a fixed identity fades. You realize you are not a rigid self. You are awareness itself, spacious, open, unshaken. This realization transforms relationships. If you are not a fixed self, then others are not fixed selves either. They too are changing, fluid, interconnected. This makes forgiveness easier. This makes compassion deeper. You stop clinging to fixed ideas of who people are. Always selfish, always kind, always against me. You see them as dynamic, like yourself. Judgment softens. Connection deepens. The teaching of emptiness also transforms fear of death. If the self is not fixed, then death is not the end of something solid. It is simply the transformation of conditions. Just as a wave falls back into the ocean, just as a flame becomes smoke and heat, we too change form. Fear softens when we realize that what we are cannot be destroyed, only transformed. So let us reflect. The self we protect so fiercely is not as real as we believe. It is like a rainbow, beautiful, vivid, but dependent on conditions. When conditions change, the rainbow fades, yet nothing is lost. The light remains. The water remains. The sky remains. The illusion was never solid. The same is true of us. This is the freedom the Buddha pointed to. Freedom from clinging to I. Freedom from defending mine. Freedom from fearing change. It is not an abstract philosophy. It is a doorway to peace, here and now. And yet, emptiness is not easy to grasp. The mind resists. It wants something solid to hold. This is why the teaching must be lived, not only thought. Each breath, each moment, each act of letting go is a chance to taste the freedom of emptiness. As we go deeper, we will see how emptiness is not cold or distant. It is the ground of compassion. When we are no longer trapped in me, love expands naturally to include all beings. This is where our journey continues. When people first hear the teaching of emptiness, they often misunderstand. They imagine it means nothing matters, that life is hollow, that love and joy are illusions. But the Buddha's teaching of emptiness is the opposite. It is not the end of meaning. It is the opening of infinite meaning. Emptiness is not despair. Emptiness is freedom. Think of space. Empty space may look like nothing, yet without it, nothing could exist. Without space, no flower could bloom, no bird could fly, no breath could be taken. Emptiness is the ground that allows everything to arise. In the same way, when we see the emptiness of the self, we do not fall into nothingness. We fall into openness. We discover a vastness that holds all of life. The problem comes when we cling to identity. I am this job. I am this role. I am this reputation. These identities are fragile. Lose the job and the self feels destroyed. Lose the role and the self feels lost. Lose the reputation and the self feels shattered. But when we see that these identities were never solid, the fear dissolves. The job may change, but our being remains. The role may end, but awareness continues. The reputation may fade, but the sky of mind remains untouched. There is a story of a Zen master who was insulted publicly. The crowd waited for him to react. Instead, he bowed and said, "Thank you for your gift, but I have no place to put it." He was free because his sense of self was not fragile. He did not cling to reputation. He lived from emptiness, and emptiness gave him unshakable peace. When we live from emptiness, compassion expands naturally. If I am not a fixed self, then you are not a fixed self either. Your anger today is not your essence. Your mistake yesterday is not your identity. You, like me, are fluid, changing, interconnected. This insight dissolves judgment. It allows love to grow where before there was only blame. Imagine meeting someone who hurt you. If you see them as a fixed enemy, forgiveness feels impossible. But if you see them as a fluid being, shaped by conditions, capable of change, forgiveness becomes possible. Emptiness makes compassion natural because it reveals that no one is trapped in a permanent self. Everyone is in motion. Everyone can awaken. Modern life needs this truth desperately. We live in a world obsessed with labels: race, class, gender, politics, beliefs. These labels harden into identities, and identities harden into walls. People shout across these walls, unable to hear, unable to see the humanity on the other side. Emptiness is the key that dissolves the walls. It shows us that behind every label is a being fluid and open, just like us. Practice makes this real. Sit quietly. Watch thoughts arise. I am angry. Notice how the anger passes. I am sad. Notice how sadness passes. I am afraid. Notice how fear passes. With each passing, you see, emotions are not the self. They visit, they leave. The self is not fixed. It is a process, not a possession. And as this insight deepens, life becomes lighter. You no longer carry the heavy armor of defending me. You no longer waste energy proving yourself. You no longer collapse when things change. Instead, you flow. You adapt. You live with grace. This is the freedom of emptiness. Consider water again. Pour it into a cup, and it becomes the cup. Pour it into a river, and it becomes the river. Water is free because it has no fixed form. The self, too, is free when we let go of fixed form. We become like water, able to meet each moment fully without fear of breaking. Emptiness also transforms how we face death. If the self were fixed, then death would be the end of something solid. But if the self is fluid, death is simply transformation. A flame becomes heat and smoke. A wave becomes the ocean. A life becomes part of the great flow of being. Fear softens when we realize that nothing is truly lost, only changed. This truth is not meant to stay in the mind. It must be lived. Try walking through your day with this awareness. I am not a fixed self. Others are not fixed selves. We are all conditions flowing together. Notice how this changes your reactions. Notice how it changes your love. Notice how it changes your fear. Slowly, emptiness becomes not an idea, but a way of living. And then you discover something surprising. Emptiness is not cold. It is warm. It is not detached. It is compassionate. When we let go of me and mine, the heart opens to all beings. The suffering of others is no longer separate. Their joy is no longer distant. Love becomes boundless because the walls of self have dissolved. This is why the Buddha taught emptiness, not as philosophy, but as liberation. To live without clinging to self is to live without fear. To live without fear is to love without limit. Emptiness, far from nothingness, is the fullness of life itself. Now, so let us reflect. The self we cling to is like a mask, beautiful at times, painful at others, but not who we truly are. When we take off the mask, what remains is vastness, openness, awareness. This awareness cannot be wounded. It cannot be broken. It cannot be lost. It is who we truly are. And now we prepare to go deeper still. For if emptiness frees us from clinging to self, it also frees us to discover the ultimate truth, that beyond suffering lies liberation. Beyond illusion lies awakening. Beyond the endless cycle of craving lies the peace of nirvana. This is where our journey continues everywhere we look. Life shows us the cycle of suffering. We see it in our own restless hearts, in our families, in our communities, in the world at large. People chase pleasure, yet pleasure fades. They chase success, yet success leaves them empty. They cling to relationships, yet relationships change. Again and again, joy rises only to fall, and the mind begins the chase once more. This cycle, the Buddha taught, is the endless wheel of suffering. It is not punishment. It is not fate. It is simply the nature of craving. The mind longs for what it does not have. It fears losing what it does. It resists what it dislikes. Each craving plants the seed of suffering. We get what we want, and then we fear losing it. We lose what we want, and we feel despair. We avoid what we dislike, and it still comes. Round and round, the wheel spins. Consider money. A person believes that more wealth will bring peace. They work tirelessly, sacrificing health and relationships. At last, they achieve the goal. Relief comes briefly. Then fear arises. What if I lose it? What if it is not enough? The joy fades. The craving begins again. This is not freedom. This is a cage. Or consider love. A person meets someone and feels alive. They believe, now I am complete. But soon insecurity appears. They fear being abandoned. They cling tightly. The more they cling, the more the relationship suffers. Joy turns into tension. Love turns into fear. Again, the wheel spins. This is samsara, the endless cycle of craving and suffering. It is like a fire that never burns out because we keep adding fuel. We throw in desire, fear, anger, greed, and the flames keep rising. No matter how much we feed it, it never says, enough. But the Buddha did not stop with naming the problem. He pointed to a way out. Just as fire dies when we stop adding fuel, suffering fades when we stop feeding craving. This is awakening. It is not a distant heaven. It is not reserved for saints. It is the possibility available here. And now to step off the wheel, to stop chasing, to stop fearing, to rest in freedom. Awakening begins with seeing clearly. The world tells us happiness is out there, in money, in status, in possessions, in others. The Buddha invites us to see, happiness is not found in chasing. Happiness is found in letting go. The joy that comes from chasing is always temporary. The peace that comes from release is lasting. Imagine carrying a heavy backpack for years. At first, you believe it holds treasures. But when you finally open it, you see it is filled with rocks. The weight was never necessary. The moment you set it down, relief floods in. This is awakening, the realization that much of what we carry is unnecessary. When we put it down, we are free. The path to awakening is not about withdrawing from life. It is about engaging life differently. We still work, but without greed. We still love, but without clinging. We still experience pain, but without despair. Awakening does not erase the waves of life. It teaches us how to surf them with balance, how to stand steady even when storms come. There is a story of a man shot with an arrow. Instead of pulling it out, he demands to know who shot it, from what distance, with what wood, with what feather. He wastes time on questions while the arrow remains in his flesh. A Buddha told this story to show how we often live. We analyze endlessly, but we do not remove the arrow of craving. Awakening is not about endless theories. It is about removing the arrow. Mindfulness is the first step. When craving arises, I need this, I must have that, notice it. See how it feels in the body. See how it drives the mind. Just noticing loosens its grip. Over time, craving loses its power. The wheel slows. Compassion is the second step. When we remember that others too are trapped in the cycle, anger softens. Instead of seeing enemies, we see fellow prisoners. We wish them freedom as we wish it for ourselves. Compassion expands the heart and weakens the chains of self. Wisdom is the third step. Wisdom sees that craving cannot bring peace. Wisdom sees that clinging cannot prevent change. Wisdom sees that letting go is not loss, but liberation. With wisdom, the fire of suffering burns lower. Awakening is not one great leap. It is many small steps. Each time we let go, we taste freedom. Each time we release, we feel lighter. Slowly, the wheel spins less fiercely. Slowly, the fire dies down. Slowly, peace arises. This peace is not bland or empty. It is vibrant. It is the peace of a heart no longer enslaved. Imagine waking up without the constant pressure of more. Imagine loving without the constant fear of loss. Imagine resting without guilt, working without desperation, living without the endless chase. This is awakening. It is not reserved for monks in caves. It is possible in cities, in families, in workplaces. It begins each moment you pause, breathe, and release. It grows each time you choose compassion over anger, wisdom over craving, presence over distraction. Awakening is not somewhere else. It is here, waiting in the simplicity of this moment. And as we prepare to go further, we see that awakening is not only for individuals. Just as suffering is collective, awakening can be collective. Communities, nations, even the world can begin to awaken. This is the vision we turn to next. The cycle of suffering is not only personal, it shapes entire societies. We see it in economies built on endless consumption, where people are told they must always buy more, achieve more, upgrade more. We see it in politics fueled by fear and division, each side clinging desperately to its identity. We see it in a culture of distraction, where people cannot sit still because silence reveals their restlessness. This is samsara on a collective scale, the wheel spinning not only in individuals, but in nations and civilizations. And just as individuals can awaken, so too can communities. Awakening is not an escape from the world. It is a new way of living. Within it, imagine workplaces where success is measured not only by profit, but by well-being. Imagine schools where children are taught mindfulness alongside mathematics. Imagine communities where compassion is seen as strength, where cooperation replaces competition, where service is valued above status. These are glimpses of collective awakening. The Buddha taught that when one person awakens, their peace ripples outward. Their calm influences those around them. Their compassion inspires others. Their wisdom plants seeds. Just as a single candle can light 1,000 others without losing its flame, one awakened heart can ignite countless more. This is how collective awakening begins, not through force, but through example. There is a story of a village plagued by conflict. Neighbors fought bitterly. Families were divided. Then a teacher came and simply lived among them in silence, kindness, and mindfulness. He did not preach. He did not scold. He simply lived in peace. Slowly, the villagers began to soften. They spoke more gently. They forgave. They gathered together. The teacher left, but the peace remained. This is the power of one awakened presence. We often underestimate this. We think change requires grand revolutions, massive movements. But true change begins in the heart. When enough hearts awaken, societies awaken. When enough societies awaken, the world transforms. Awakening spreads not by shouting, but by shining. Modern life offers us countless distractions from awakening. Advertisements tell us happiness is in the next purchase. Social media tells us happiness is in the next like. Work tells us happiness is in the next promotion. But deep down, we know these promises are empty. Awakening whispers a different truth. Happiness is already here, in this breath, in this moment, in this simple awareness of being alive. This does not mean awakening makes life painless. Sickness will still come. Loss will still come. Death will still come. But the suffering, the extra weight we add by resisting, clinging, fearing that suffering can end. Pain is inevitable. Suffering is optional. Awakening frees us from the chains we place around pain. Imagine a society built on this understanding. A world where people still face challenges, but do not collapse under them. A world where people still feel grief, but not despair. A world where people still work, but not from desperation. This is not fantasy. It is the natural outcome of many individuals choosing presence, compassion, and wisdom. And so the path of awakening is not only for monks or mystics. It is for parents raising children, workers earning a living, students studying, leaders making decisions. It is for anyone who longs for freedom. It is for anyone willing to see clearly and let go. The Buddha once said, "I teach one thing, suffering and the end of suffering." That is the heart of awakening. To see the wheel and to step off it. To feel the fire and to stop feeding it. To live not as a prisoner of craving, but as a free being in the present. Let us imagine what this could mean for you. You wake in the morning. Instead of reaching for your phone, you breathe. You feel the gift of being alive. You eat breakfast with gratitude, aware of the countless hands that brought the food to your table. You work with focus, not fear, knowing your worth is not measured by success alone. You listen deeply to others, seeing them not as competitors, but as companions. You rest at night, not haunted by endless what-ifs, but held by peace. This is awakening, lived in daily life. And when you live this way, you give a gift to the world. You become a candle in the dark. You remind others that freedom is possible. You remind them that they are not alone. You remind them that suffering is not the final word. Awakening is . So as we close this chapter, we carry a truth. The wheel of suffering spins endlessly, but it can be stopped. Not by running away, not by controlling life, but by letting go. Awakening is not distant. It is here. It is now. It is possible for you, for your community, for the world. And yet, one more step remains. For all these teachings about stress, money, relationships, anxiety, striving, separation, impermanence, emptiness, and awakening are not only ideas, they are invitations. The final step is to bring them together, to see how they form a path, and to embrace the hope that no matter how heavy life feels, freedom is always within reach. This is where our journey continues, into the conclusion that ties all threads together, into the call to live differently, into the reminder that peace is not far away, but as close as your next breath. Life in the modern world often feels like being lost in a storm. Stress pulls you in one direction, anxiety in another. Money worries, relationship struggles, exhaustion, loneliness all swirl around us like fierce winds. Each problem feels separate, yet when we look closely, they are all branches of the same tree. At the root lies the restless mind, grasping, fearing, clinging. At the root lies the illusion that happiness is somewhere outside of us, waiting to be earned or found. The Buddhist teachings, like a lantern in the storm, reveal a different way. Step by step, we have walked this path together. We have seen how stress can be calmed by mindfulness, how money loses its grip when we see through craving, how relationships heal when we bring compassion, how anxiety softens when we return to the present, how striving exhausts us, and how effortless action sets us free, how separation is an illusion, and how interconnectedness brings belonging, how impermanence, when embraced, teaches us to cherish, how emptiness dissolves fear and expands love, how awakening ends the cycle of suffering. These are not separate lessons. They are pieces of one truth. Each problem of modern life is healed by the same medicine: awareness, compassion, and letting go. Each pain becomes a doorway, leading us not away from life, but deeper into it. Think of a necklace made of pearls. Each pearl is beautiful on its own, but when strung together, they form something greater. The teachings are like this: stress, money, relationships, anxiety, striving, separation, impermanence, emptiness. Awakening each pearl carries wisdom, but together they form a path that leads from confusion to clarity, from fear to peace, from suffering to freedom. This path does not require us to leave our families, abandon our work, or retreat to caves. It asks only that we live differently where we are, to pause instead of rushing, to breathe instead of panicking, to listen instead of judging, to release instead of clinging. These small acts, repeated daily, create transformation. There is a fall. Zen saying, before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. Life does not suddenly become exotic. The bills still arrive. The children still cry. The body still ages. But the way we live changes. We chop wood and carry water with awareness, with gratitude, with peace. What was once a burden becomes a practice. What was once ordinary becomes sacred. This is the miracle of the path. It does not remove challenges. It changes our relationship to them. Stress becomes a signal to pause. Anxiety becomes a reminder to return to the breath. Striving becomes a chance to practice surrender. Separation becomes an opportunity to connect. Impermanence becomes an invitation to cherish. Emptiness becomes a gateway to love. Awakening becomes not a distant dream, but a lived reality. But how do we begin? Begin where you are. You do not need to master every teaching at once. Choose one practice. Sit in silence for 5 minutes each day, simply breathing. Or eat one meal in full awareness, tasting each bite. Or offer one act of kindness without expecting return. These small practices are seeds. Over time, they grow into forests of peace. Remember, the path is not about perfection. It is about persistence. You will forget. You will fall back into stress, fear, and striving. This is natural. A practice is not about never falling. It is about returning again and again to awareness, to compassion, to letting go. Each return strengthens the path beneath your feet. There is a story of a monk asked how he became enlightened. He said, 2 steps. I fall down, I get up. This is the essence of practice. We fall into distraction. We get up with awareness. We fall into anger. We get up with compassion. We fall into fear. We get up with courage. Step by step, fall by fall, rise by rise, we walk the path. And as we walk, we discover something extraordinary. The path is not outside us. It is within. U.S. The teachings are not foreign. They are reminders of what we already know. Deep down, we know that peace comes from presence, not possessions. We know that love comes from compassion, not control. We know that freedom comes from letting go, not clinging. The Buddha's words awaken what is already in us. Imagine a life lived on this path. You wake in the morning and greet the day not with dread, but with gratitude. You meet challenges not with panic, but with calm. You love not with fear, but with openness. You live not as a prisoner of craving, but as a free being, walking with lightness and joy. This is not a fantasy. It is possible here and now. And the path does not end with you. Each step you take ripples outward. Your calm influences others. Your compassion heals others. Your wisdom inspires others. In this way, the path is not private. It is collective. As you awaken, the world awakens. As you heal, the world heals. This is the invitation of the path. Not to escape life, but to embrace it more fully. Not to deny suffering, but to transform it. Not to wait for peace someday, but to live peace today. And yet, there is one more step. For the path is not only about personal practice. It is about vision. It is about seeing how all the teachings point toward a future filled with hope. A future where individuals, families, communities, and nations can live differently. This is where our journey continues. The path of the Buddha is not ancient history. It is living wisdom, meant for this very moment, in this very world. The challenges we face today: stress, money pressure, fractured relationships, anxiety, endless. Striving, loneliness, fear of change, confusion about self, the cycle of suffering, are not new. They are the same struggles human beings have always faced, wearing new clothes in modern times. The teachings endure because the human heart endures. The medicine remains the same: awareness, compassion, letting go. As we look back on this journey, we see how each step prepared us for the next. Stress taught us to pause. Money taught us to see through craving. Relationships taught us compassion. Anxiety taught us presence. Striving taught us surrender. Separation taught us connection. Impermanence taught us gratitude. Emptiness taught use freedom. Awakening taught us hope. Together, they form a complete path, not a straight road, but a circle of wisdom that can be entered at any point. This circle is not a cage. It is a doorway. It invites us not to escape life, but to live it differently. It invites us to stop running, to stop clinging, to stop fearing. It invites us to breathe, to love, to trust. It invites us to discover that peace is not far away, but as close as this breath, this moment, this awareness. The Buddha once compared his teaching to a raft. When you need to cross a river, you use the raft. But once you reach the other side, you do not carry the raft on your back. You set it down. The teachings are like this. They are tools, not possessions. They are meant to be lived, not clung to. When you taste freedom, you no longer need to hold tightly to words or forms. You live the truth directly. So the question now is not, what did we learn? The question is, how will we live? Will we continue running in the cycle of craving, or will we step off? Will we continue clinging to illusions, or will we let go? Will we continue fearing change, or will we embrace impermanence with grace? Each of us must answer, not with words, but with the way we live each day. The beauty of the path is that it does not demand perfection. You do not need to be a monk. You do not need to renounce everything. You do not need to be flawless. You only need to begin. Begin by pausing. Begin by breathing. Begin by choosing compassion when anger arises. Begin by remembering gratitude when you eat. Begin by forgiving by resting, by letting go. Each beginning, no matter how small, is a step toward freedom. And when you begin, you are not alone. Every person who practices adds light to the world. Every act of kindness is a flame. Every moment of awareness is a ripple. Together, these lights and ripples weave into something greater, a collective awakening, a possibility of peace for all. Imagine such a world where stress does not dominate because people know how to pause. A world where money is not worshipped because people know the true source of happiness. A world where relationships are healed by compassion, where anxiety is softened by presence, where striving is replaced by balance. A world where separation is dissolved by connection, where impermanence is honored by gratitude, where emptiness expands love, where awakening is not a dream, but a lived reality. This world is not beyond reach. It begins with us. So let us return to the storm with a lantern in our hands. Let us return to daily life not as victims, but as practitioners. Let us remember that each breath is a chance to awaken. Each step is a chance to choose peace. Each moment is a chance to love. The path is simple. It is not always easy, but it is always here. Whenever you forget, return. Whenever you fall, rise. Whenever you despair, breathe. The teachings are not outside you. They are within you. The Buddha did not give you something you lacked. He reminded you of what you already are: awareness, compassion, peace. And so, as we close this journey, let us carry one truth: freedom is possible. Not someday, not for someone else, but here, now for you. The storm may continue, but within you, a lantern is lit. Walk with it. Share it. Live it. The world is waiting.